Hello YouTube! Here I am in the 1867 game, exploring the streets, and it's snowing today. Life in Victorian cities was bleak at any time of the year, whether it be Christmas, like now, or in the summer. It was very difficult for people to survive on the streets. Those who had no money and no means of income could not rely on the state to provide benefits or pensions. They had to work. And one route of work that was available to many Victorian people was that of the crossing sweep. You only need threepence, 3 pence in Great Britain to buy yourself a broom. And in Luxembourg, it was very little difference. You'd only need a few centimes to get a brush to clear a route across the street. The streets would be covered with poo, dead bodies of horses and dogs and cats, and other things I dare not mention. And so, to help people cross the road and avoid getting their shoes and dresses dirty, some paupers would spend threepence in Great Britain or 4 or 5 centimes in Luxembourg to buy a broom and then sweep a clear patch across the road so that passers-by could cross from one side of the road to the other. And here, we've met him before, is Joe the crossing sweep, named after a character from Charles Dickens, Joe in the Charles Dickens stories. Many people were grateful for the work that crossing sweeps did, because it meant that they could cross the road without getting their clothes dirty, and the crossing sweeps would do other vital chores, such as watch out on the streets for villains. If a house was empty, if you were going out on a business trip and you had to leave your house empty, the crossing sweep would watch out and make sure that there is no deviant activity. And perhaps if you had some money you wanted to run to the bank, well, you could actually trust a crossing sweep. They were very trustworthy people because they would always be in the same place on the same street every day for their entire lives, and so they had to build up an element of trust with local shopkeepers and pedestrians, otherwise they'd lose their slot on the streets. Now this meant that in London, Henry Mayhew did a survey and he found that crossing sweeps were the most honest and trustworthy people across the entire city. You could afford to give them a few pence and ask them to run it to the bank for you, and they'd only be too happy to oblige for a small fee themselves. Or if you were going to move house, suppose I lived here and I wanted to move house and take the furniture out of my house, well, I would go and ask the crossing sweep to give me a hand lugging the furniture from one house onto the cart so I could move to another house. And crossing sweeps would be only too happy to oblige and help you move or lug large items of furniture or barrels or heavy crates about in order to earn just a few more pence. So many people were actually grateful for the help that crossing sweeps gave. However, Henry Mayhew found that in London 1851 there were so many crossing sweeps you would find one on every street corner. Thankfully here there aren't, there's just the one. But in London there'd be one crossing sweep on every street corner. Just imagine if you were going to walk across the city of London, or here in the city of Luxembourg, from street to street, you would be asked to pay a penny every time you crossed the road, from one person to cross the road to another person. to cross the road, and many people did not like crossing sweeps. In fact, many people complained there were too many and they were just a nuisance. So, there was a mixed reaction to the presence of crossing sweeps. Some people found that they were helpful to keep the streets clear of poo and also snow, as well as helping with other menial tasks, whereas other people found that there were so many crossing sweeps, what with old people, old men, old women, elderly people, disabled people, young children, all helping to keep the streets clear, that some people found that they were a nuisance. And let me finish by showing you one illustration from a newspaper in London, and that will explain how some people viewed the presence of crossing sweeps. Well, I'll show you that picture, and I'll also click and say bye-bye. See you next time. By the way, Merry Christmas.